Ladies and gentlemen, welcome! This is your main event of the evening! Live from the Midnight in Miami studios here in Miami, Florida, USA. Introducing first, hosting out of the red corner. He hails from Rosario, Argentina, introducing the host with the most, the one, the only, Juan Gamero!
Wow, my brother, I am so grateful. Thank you so much. That means the world, man.
I don't blame you. I'm the same way. Which is the main? Is there a main cam? Middle?
Middle, but your best frame is
That one. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your motherfucking boy, Gamero, the Pharaoh, the poor man's Robert De Niro. You know what I'm talking about? Bald version, but still beautiful. Oh my God. I am so very ecstatic. You know what I'm talking about? To introduce the powerhouse of a guest that we have on with a very Miami attire, you know what I'm saying? But before we get to introducing the powerhouse of a guest that we have on, ladies and gentlemen, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Go on YouTube, go on Deezer, Spotify, all that good stuff. Subscribe, you know what I'm saying? Go on Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff so you can stay up to date with every single one of our new guests every Thursday at midnight. And speaking of new guests, how do I put into words, ladies and gentlemen, the prestige, the honor that I have before me? Ladies and gentlemen, the man that is before me is an entertainer of multiple facets. You know what I'm saying? Ladies and gentlemen, I long to have a hairline like this man. You know what I'm saying? God, in my deepest fantasies, I could dream of having a hairline like this man. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute honor to be able to introduce for the first time in the Midnight in Miami Hollowed Halls, we have Big Mo! My brother, how are you today?
Well, you're going to put me out of a job.
Man, I don't know about that.
Wow.
I am a fan of yours. I don't know about that.
That was a hell of an introduction.
Thank
Good
you.
Lord.
And that means the world coming from the man himself. Big Mo, talk to me. How are you? How's your time in Florida been?
Good. It's, better than good. It's been amazing. I love it down here. Definitely warmer than where I live in Denver.
Okay.
I obviously have come to Florida a lot, but you know, I have more time with this trip, so I wanted to carve out time to see gentlemen like yourself.
Okay.
So thank you for the hospitality.
Thank you for joining us.
But no, I love it down here. I had to even, wear kind of a Miami
Yes, sir.
style outfit, blend in as much as I can. And, we've been connected for year and a half.
Yeah.
And we've just never had time to kind of figure it out, but here we are.
Here we are, and it's a treat, definitely, to finally, like I said earlier, break that internet barrier. I love whenever we get a chance to do that. Big Mo, I'd be remiss if I don't begin at the roots of it all. Talk to me, where did combat sports, where did boxing, where did all of this come into play? Talk to me about the roots of it all.
So the deep roots was combat sports is actually the first sport I ever did.
Oh.
I actually studied Shotokan karate as a form of martial arts when I was a child. Did that for about 6 years. Then as I continued to grow and get bigger and bigger, basketball and football started to make a little bit more sense. So I pivoted to those. Ended up playing Division I football at the University of Northern Colorado.
Wow.
For 5 years. And
What position?
I was an offensive lineman.
Oh, wow.
I used to be way bigger than I am now. I used to be about 315.
You were 315.
Yeah, I've lost about 100 pounds.
Holy shit, intentionally?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, definitely intentionally. No, I at the end of my career when, I knew I wasn't going to the next level, it was like, all right, well, I don't want to be this big anymore. Doesn't feel good always, doesn't look the best either. So definitely dedicated myself to losing the weight. But I knew I wanted to work in entertainment. And I thought I was going to work as like an agent or a manager, maybe go out to Hollywood, try my hand at that. But I recognized that I was a pretty good public speaker. And I was hosting shows. I was hosting banquets, like events of like 50, 100, maybe 200 people max.
And you never had stage fright, nothing like that?
Never. Wow. I was always a good public speaker. My father was a trial attorney, so maybe I got it from that. He knows how to talk in front of people. Grew up in a family of attorneys. But I always was comfortable with it. And so I was hosting those events, and I had a friend of mine that says, hey, have you ever tried commentary? Because commentary is a pretty, that's a good transition for a lot of people when they get done playing. They get done playing football, they maybe try their hand at commentary.
Right.
But at the time, I had played football for over a decade, basketball over a decade, and I was like, I'm burnt out of combat sport or of team sports. But I was like, you know what? I like combat sports. I was a fan of the UFC. I was a little bit of a fan of boxing at the time. So I got a hold of a local promotion in Denver, and they brought me on as a color commentator. And I started as a color commentator, and then I saw the ring announcer. I was like, I can do that one. That's more my speed. Oh. And so I just pestered the promotion called Sparta in Colorado. And
shout out Sparta in Colorado.
Yeah, shout out first employer Jeff Cisneros and Steve Mestis with Airtight Boxing, and they let me start emceeing the shows. And I was like, all right, well, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it. I don't just want to do this as a hobby. I'm like, if I'm going to dedicate myself to doing this, I want to be the best at it. So I built a brand around it with Big Mo, started wearing sunglasses. That was a previous iteration of Big Mo. And,
okay.
One thing led to another. And then now I'm announcing some of the biggest fights in the world.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Wow. Talk to me about the very first time that you went up. I know you said that you don't have stage fright, but was there any part of you that was like, fuck, I could mess up this name. I could fuck up their country. Was there overthinking at all, or were you calm, cool, and collected?
So I was nervous from like a presentation standpoint. I was not nervous from a preparation standpoint. I've always been a very prepared person. I think that comes from being an athlete for so long, is that you always watched film, you always were prepared for everything, the playbook, things like that. I think that also came from just being a good student too. So the preparation, I was always good. I was never nervous about making mistakes. I just was nervous in the very beginning just because I was standing in a ring doing this incredibly ridiculous job, and right. I didn't know how people were going to react to me. And I was terrible, in my opinion. I think that the passion and the energy was there. It was almost like a mold of clay, in the sense of like people could kind of see there was something there, but right. I needed to find my voice a little bit more. I needed to find my tone and my energy and catchphrases. I needed to kind of craft it all. But I did it pretty quick, and I crafted it pretty quick, and that came from a lot of reps and a lot of shows. But the very first one, I was the color commentator. And the promoter said, all right, our ring announcer's going to be late to our next show. He's got another thing he's got to take care of. Do you want to do like basically the undercard? I was like, oh shit. I was like, all right, yeah, let's do it. And, I thought at the time that, screaming and yelling was how it needed to sound. And I lost my voice after like 4 or 5 fights. And then, but it was all a progression.
Right.
All a progression.
You say that in your own opinion, the very first time you went up, you were, and I quote, terrible. Is that because you demand a certain standard out of yourself? Is that because you demand a certain standard out of the profession? Why do you feel that you were terrible? I
mean, it's when you look back, it could be applied to anything. I know you're a critical perfectionist. You want every show you do to be as good as possible, right? I bet, when you go back and watch the first one you ever did, you're like,
oh my God.
Why did I ask that question? Why did I say it like that? Like, yeah. I'm not even looking at the camera, right. Like, all that type of stuff. So I think it's more of like, it's holding yourself to a standard, and it's also being competitive too. Like, if you want to put forth a good product, you have to be able to be your biggest critic and look back and say, I did that wrong. I did this wrong. I need to change that. I need to adjust how I said this. You need to be your biggest critic, in my opinion.
At what point did it switch over from something like you had mentioned, a possible hobby or whatever the case, to, okay, no, now we're a brand, now we're doing this, we're Big Mo. At what point did it branch off into something far bigger?
That's a good question. I think, what it was when COVID happened, the whole industry shut down. Yeah. There were no fights going on. They couldn't do it. But Sparta and Airtight, regional local promotions in Colorado, they had good relationships with Wyoming and the Combat Sports Commission in Wyoming, who's headed up by a guy named Brian Pedersen. And Wyoming just had more lax rules when it came to COVID. And we did shows outdoors. Basically there was a big bar in Cheyenne and we did it on the outside, and we still drove, had crowds of 300, 400 people. And what I recognized in that moment was I was working more consistently than any other announcer, even, the UFC. And
right.
They were putting on shows, but I was doing 2 shows a month, which during COVID was a ton.
Oh yeah.
And at that point I was like, all right, like, this is the opportunity for me to take more reps than anyone else, to really find my tone, find my voice, put myself out there, really start pushing the social media, things like that. Like I went into that COVID situation of, okay, either I can back off and just say, it's COVID, whatever, I'll pick this back up when it's over, or I can say, all right, well, I have an opportunity to keep working. How can I utilize this to get better and to really hone in what I was doing? And I was able to really make up, a gap theoretically of experience that other people may have. I mean, I still, from an experience standpoint, there's ring announcers with 25 years more experience than I do that aren't even on the platform that I'm on. It's all good. I made up that gap really quickly. And I think that COVID time, as I was like, all right, well, if Big Mo is going to last, if this is going to happen, if I'm going to make this brand, then I got to make it happen regardless of whatever is going on in the world.
Would you consider yourself a workaholic?
100%.
Yeah?
100%. Yeah. I, whether I'm doing entertainment or I do work in business, do some entrepreneurship stuff on the side. I mean, when you factor in travel, I'm easily hitting 100-hour work weeks. I get, you might call it impatient, but I want to achieve what I want to achieve now. And I'm a competitive guy, and I think I have the skill set to do it. I think I have the ability to do it. And I'm hyper focused on achieving what I want to achieve. That's what some people have different purposes in life or things they focus on. For me, personal achievement is a big one.
Oh, and props to you for having that vision, my brother.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course. What was the catalyst? What made you lose the weight? Because I know it's not something, we can't just gloss over 100 pounds like it's 5 pounds, we had to dive into that. Was that something that was very carefully calculated because of what you wanted to do? Was boxing not even in the picture yet? Talk to me a little bit about that.
So I started announcing basically in, I want to say the spring-ish of 2019, give or take, maybe a little bit later. So my football career had actually ended prior to that, a few months before. So it was before any pursuit of entertainment or on-camera work or anything. I just finished, and I wasn't going to go the next level. So I was like, all right, I want to shed this weight. And my best friend Keenan, who also played football with me, he was a big guy also. So what was good about that is we were able to hold each other accountable with losing weight, which is always important. Did we do it the healthiest way? No. We had days where we ate 1,000 calories and put ourselves in a severe deficit. I don't recommend that. Yeah. Full disclaimer. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a dietitian. Do not necessarily come to what I say for scientific advice on how to do things. Just a disclaimer. Midnight in Miami.
I love that disclaimer.
Have some
yes.
text on the screen here.
100%.
But no, it was about I wanted to be in better shape. I wanted to look better. I wanted to be able to wear slim fit clothes.
I was about to tell you, man. Man, wearing that shirt is half the battle right there, man.
Exactly.
Wearing that shirt reaps the benefits, man. Reaps the benefits. I've been there myself. There's no better feeling than being able to put on something you could never wear before, man.
Exactly.
Oh,
correct.
man, that's
exactly
the best.
Correct.
Would you say that had you not gone through that process, that putting on the blinders sort of focus, do you think that you wouldn't have closed the gap as much as you did now?
That's a great question. I definitely think that, a quote that I was taught from a mentor of mine is in paraphrasing, but you got to figure out how to apply your past to your future. And I was a really good student in college. I was a far better student than I was a football player. Got my undergrad in 3.5 years in a business degree.
Sheesh.
I ended up becoming along with my buddy Keenan, who I mentioned, the first ever full-time MBAs at the school. We kind of actually helped build the full-time MBA program at the college because we had eligibility remaining for football. So we spent that time finishing football and basically doing this one-of-a-kind MBA program that now other people have been able to come in and do as well. So I'm very proud of that. But with that, I was pulling long hours anyway, and I was working my ass off regardless whether it was on the football field or in the classroom. And so when it came to weight loss, like basically what it was is I had a lot of stuff going on throughout my college career, and then all of a sudden I lost football, and that was 60 hours of my week gone. And I was like, all right, well, I kind of want to find something else to fill with my time now that I lost that. And so at the time that became, losing weight. And then I still had room on my plate. And so then I kind of pursued this career in entertainment. So it really was more so of, I knew what it was like to kind of push myself. I knew the limits of what I could do mentally, physically, emotionally. And I definitely think that, how I trained throughout college and being an athlete and being a student definitely helped me in pursuing this entertainment career for sure.
When you had either accepted or had told yourself that you weren't pursuing a career in football, was that a weight off of your shoulders? Was it did it break you? What was that realization like? And was there a sense of excitement for what was to come?
I mean, to be honest, like I never really anticipated going to the pros. I mean, I was able to be honest with myself while playing that, going to the NFL, I mean, probably wasn't a viable option, and it was all good with me. Like I always knew that my mind and other things I could do would take me further than my body would. So when football ended, I got my full. I was actually pretty burnt out of it by the end of it. I mean, I was good. I was happy to have the game be over. I miss the team. I miss the camaraderie. That's what I miss. Do I miss playing the game of football? Yes and no. I mean, obviously there's facets that I miss and facets that I don't. So no, when it was over, it was all good. I've always been someone, like throughout my whole life, I've always been good with going to the next chapter. Whether that chapter was elementary school to middle school or middle school to high school or whatever the chapters may be, I always did well with that new chapter. So I was excited. I was excited to say, okay, I've taken the last 5 years of my life and dedicated myself to this. It's over now, all good. What can I do next? And I found it.
When you were burnt out of team sports, but not sports as a whole. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I knew that. Don't get me wrong, I've always kind of wanted to get away from sports just because it's been such a huge part of my life. I'm curious what else I could apply myself to. But I'm always going to be a part of sports. I mean, the reality is I'm 6'7". I'm a former Division I athlete. The odds of me ever just not being affiliated with sports is probably pretty slim. So the burnt out was more just specifically with just the football and basketball. So I knew that the odds of me getting back into it were pretty high.
Okay.
Not necessarily those sports specifically, but some form of sport.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, every single week, we have I said three segments, and the first one is actually called Mail Time. I stole that shit from Blue's Clues. You know what I'm saying? And in this beautiful segment, we ask our illustrious guests 3 questions that you yourself have submitted, whether that be via Instagram, DM, Facebook, whatever the case. But here are the questions, and here we go. How do you handle any potential language barrier when announcing for international fighters?
Good question. Lots and lots of preparation. So I've always been, I think a big reason why I enjoy ring announcing and just entertainment is I've always found communication fascinating. Specifically, like with humans, like we're able to communicate better than a lot of other species because we have body language, we have verbal, we have nonverbal cues, that type of stuff. So I've always enjoyed language. I always tell myself I'm going to take time to learn another language. I've never done it. I'm decent in Spanish, but not enough to where I could actually sustain a conversation. So I've always found it interesting. And because of that, I always make it a focus to pronounce names correctly. And the simplest way to get to know what to say or how to say something is literally just to ask. And if I can't ask someone, lots of research. You know, how do I pronounce this? I try to find audio files online of potentially a commentator in that language saying it or an announcer in that language saying it. And then I cross-reference data. I mean, again, I'm a student at heart.
Sheesh.
So I know how to do primary research. I know how to conduct my own research. So, you know, a perfect example was the last fight I did, probably when this episode comes out, the last fight I did was in Bournemouth, England, Chris Billum-Smith versus Armin Jojai. And Armin's last name was spelled like Xhojaj. And he's from Kosovo, but I think he also is Albanian. So there was like a whole lot of like cultures going on. And I was like, damn, like obviously regardless of his main event, I want to get it correct. But I was like, all right, like this guy's a headliner on the fight. So I started doing research, and I was able to find clips of him fighting for a promotion from that territory or from that area of the world with commentators from there. And I was able to listen and go, okay, that's a Jojai. Okay, so that's kind of close. All right, I know how to pronounce the XHO. And then I had it about probably 99% confidence. And then just when we were at weigh-ins and I was able to converse with his team, I just confirmed, hey, this is how I think it's pronounced. And they go, that's perfect. We've never had someone get it on the first guess. I was like, hell yeah.
That's what's up.
So that's the perfect example. It's an attention to detail. It's making sure that just those little things make a difference.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in a job that is pure communication. My job, I'm a glorified public speaker. That's basically what I am. So because of that, I need to make sure that what I am speaking is correct. Just detail.
Wow. Talk about doing your homework.
Amen.
All right. Second question from our mail time segment. Okay. Can you tell us about a particularly challenging fight that you've had to announce for and how you overcame any obstacles that you encountered?
In terms of
whether it be, and I'm not, whether it be you blanked on a name. There was a typo on your sheet. Maybe they gave you the wrong name, and that's another thing. The papers that you're holding, is that everything's been created by you, or is it given to you?
So I'm glad. Let's connect those two.
Right.
Let's connect those 2 points. So. And what I'm about to say is not meant to come off as arrogant or boastful. I don't make mistakes, really. If I make a mistake, I can tell you the mistakes that I've made because I pride myself on not making a lot of them. But when I make a mistake, it's typically fumbling over a word. I've never announced the wrong corner. I've never turned the wrong way and started announcing the wrong fighter. I've never called a fighter the wrong name. Like I just don't do that. Right. And a big piece of that is just I'm OCD for one. And I actually think that helps me in that situation because it makes me double, triple, quadruple check things. I mean, I've gotten handed scorecards from the judges where there's one score where I'm like, really? And I'll ask them. And they're not going to get mad at me for just double checking. They want to make sure it's done correctly too. And I've actually caught an error once or twice. So
really,
yeah, it happens. It happens. Never on a big stage, but more on the local stages. But the point is it happens.
It does.
And the way that I'm able to actually calm myself because I have OCD is knowing the answer before I go up there. I never go into the ring and improvise. I at least have everything down to where I know what I want to say. I know what has to be said. I've confirmed it with the powers that be. I know when my cue is going to be. I have it all set before I actually even raise the microphone to my mouth. And that's, again, just it's a bit of preparation. And the cards that you mentioned are a huge part of it. A lot of people, a lot of announcers read off their card. I don't. If you or your viewers have ever watched me announce, I'm very interactive with the crowd.
Oh, yeah.
I look at the camera. I look at the crowd. I engage the crowd. I don't just... Some announcers just like to stand there and talk. I don't do that. Especially in boxing.
Right, like it's hooked on phonics over here. Nah, man,
Exactly. And the cards are exactly what the cards should be. It's a reference. It's not a script. And I think I gleaned that from the amount of just presentations I do in my entrepreneurship life, but also as a student. I never liked having note cards. I took public speaking classes, and the professors, taught us, we're cool with note cards and things like that for presentations. I hated it because I thought it looked not engaging.
Yeah.
Like, it's not... If you use note cards because you struggle with memory, that's fine. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But for me, I was always the person of I would rather memorize something than just sit there and reference a card because you break that engagement with the audience. If I'm watching a show, I'm expecting to engage with the host. I'm expecting to engage with who's ever talking. If that person breaks that contact to go like this...
Right.
At least for me, I feel disconnected. So I never want to use the cards if I don't have to. And so the cards for me are simply just a reference. I know the keywords. It's just sometimes I may just want to glance at it. And if you ever watch me announce, I announce like this if I'm facing the fighter and I have the cards like this and I just give it a little turn. And then I can just slightly reference without actually having to break my connection with who I'm connecting with, whether that be the fighter, because I like to turn and face the fighters. A lot of announcers don't like doing that, or whether I'm facing the audience themselves. So everything kind of ties in together. It's a lot deeper than what you might think. I mean, at least with how I do it.
Oh yeah. No, 100%. It's almost like it's a choreographed dance that people don't know what goes on behind.
I think so. I mean, look, it's a form of entertainment, and how I've looked at being a ring announcer is like this. And I've said this before, and this is going to be the calling card till the day I die with this. The ring announcer is an important role. And the ring announcer plays a role that no one else in the broadcast of a show plays. The ring announcer is the only person that talks to both the in-arena crowd and the virtual audience that's watching. The commentators, the in-arena crowd can't hear the commentators. They're only talking to the broadcast. So I'm the person that's able to talk to both. So because of that, I have to not only be good on audio, I also have to be good visually because I'm actually presenting to a group of people. And how I look at a production, a boxing show, is whenever you ask a boxing provider or an MMA provider or a bare knuckle provider, whatever show, and you ask them who your competition is, they always list off the other promotions. I disagree. I think that your competition is any other form of entertainment that the viewer could be watching. It could be Netflix. It could be listening to music. It could be going out.
Video games, whatever.
Video games, whatever. So what we have to understand as a production, as a show, specifically a show that's expensive, watching combat sports, tickets are expensive. Pay-per-views can be expensive. If they have a cable provider, the cable is expensive. So if we're asking people to take 4 hours out of their life, pay money to watch our show, damn right I'm going to be entertaining. Of course I am.
Hell yeah.
Like, how can we expect to do well as a show if someone who is the presenter of our show is not engaging? It's not going to work. Exactly. It's immediately going to hurt the show, in my opinion.
100%. I could not have said it better myself. And the last question from our mail time segment. Okay. Actually, this kind of ties into the last statement.
Okay.
How do you engage with the crowd and make announcing an exciting experience for the audience?
Great question. These have been great questions.
Yes.
Shout out to the viewers. So what I recognized early on in my career with ring announcers is a lot of people think that ring announcers is just a voice and the voice is it. I disagree. And don't get me wrong, the voice is huge. Like I'm gonna be honest, if you don't have a good voice, like I don't know how well it's kind of just like that's kind of just a necessary requirement.
That's You
know, I've talked to people in the past, and they go, "Yeah, we like that ring announcer. He has a good voice." I'm like, "Well, I would hope so." You know what I'm saying? So
that soccer player, he's got good legs.
Exactly right. But what I noticed is actually the ring announcer is the most consistent person on camera during a show. The fighters only do their fight. And I'm speaking in generalities. The fighters only do their fight. The commentators are typically off camera, and the referees alternate. So when, from a visual perspective, the consistent person throughout the show is the ring announcer, period. And so with that, the visual component is just as important because I'll give an example. I announce right now for Sky, for Boxer, which is on Sky Sports. Sky Sports is the third largest sports network in the world behind ESPN and Fox. And if you're not counting America, it is the biggest in the world, right? Millions of people watch Sky. Tons of people tune in to watch their boxing content. And at multiple times during the show, I am center camera, holding a Sky microphone, talking to a Sky viewer, and talking to a crowd of upwards of 20, 30,000 people that paid for tickets. I'm sorry, this, and now fighting out of the red corner, John Smith.
That's not going to cut it.
It's not going to work. No. These people that are taking time to watch the show, they want a level of entertainment. And I believe that that's a big reason why my career has developed as quickly as it has, is because I think I understand that a little bit more. I care a lot about what I wear. I care a lot about what I present because, yeah, don't get me wrong, it's the voice that people listen to, but they're watching you too.
Oh, yeah.
There's a visual component as well.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for sending in those questions. Great questions. Please tune in and send in those questions.
Yes.
That's funny what you said. There's a saying in theater that you have to perform for the person at the back of the theater, the last seat. And I think that,
I'm going to steal that.
There you go. Please use it because, it rings very true, Talk to me about outfits. How do you know what to wear? Do you change it every time? And at what point are you like, can I get away with wearing the same thing twice? Or
So again, the outfits, ring announcers' outfits has always been a thing. Usually very formal, very upscale. I think that there have been certain announcers in the past. Bruce Buffer was a big one that started to wear some more flamboyant stuff. Which I love, obviously. I do it. But again, it ties into the presentation aspect. Everything that I do, every component of my job, truthfully, is really with the fans in mind. Because they're the consumer of the product. The product don't get me wrong, the product doesn't exist without the fighters, most certainly. But when you look at the people that are actually creating the revenue for the brand that makes it being able to pay the fighters and to pay broadcasters and to have all that stuff, it's pretty much the viewers. It's the eyeballs. If you don't get people to watch your show, I don't know how long you're going to stick around, right? So a lot of what I do is for that, especially because I'm talking to them. And so presentation, again, visually is critical. So, I see a lot of ring announcers that don't always pay attention to that. They're sometimes not well kept, or they're sometimes, their clothes don't fit correctly. I'm like, that doesn't help you establish authority. That doesn't help you create a presence. I have a presence. I will never forget one of the best compliments I ever received was Johnny Nelson, who I work with on Sky. He's a former cruiserweight champion. Huge over in Europe. He's huge globally, but he's obviously very popular in the UK. He's from Sheffield. England. I remember the first ever show I did for them. He comes up to me after the show, and this was a test run. Boxer wasn't sure if they were going to go with me. They brought me out as just a test, just to see how it went. I did well, obviously. I'm still working for him.
Yeah, I mean, clearly. Spoiler alert, it went well.
It went well, yeah. But I remember Johnny Nelson pulled me aside after the show, and he goes, when you started announcing, I couldn't tell if I liked it, but you made me listen to what you had to say. And every time you started announcing, he goes, everyone in the arena, they turned and watched you. That is the most difficult thing to do, he told me. And he's been a commentator and an analyst for years.
Wow.
You can be the best at what you do presentation-wise. You can sound amazing. If you don't get people to pay attention to what you're doing, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so that kind of ties it into that you have to be authoritative. You have to have this presence about you to where when you make introductions, it kind of sets the tone for everything and people pay attention. And if I'm going to have people that, as I'm in the ring with Savannah Marshall and Clarissa Shields with 20,000 people and millions of viewers, if I am there to set the tone and to deliver an introduction for these fighters, everything needs to be dialed. Introductions, voice, audio, acoustics, and what I wear is also a component of that because, to me, it helps establish that authority. So it's something I focus on a lot. I'm very happy to work with who I work with. I work with Sam's Tailor out of Hong Kong. It's a family-owned business that's now ran and operated by Roshan Melwani. And they've been making clothes for world leaders, presidents, actors, all that stuff. And I remember I was looking for a tailor to work with, a clothier to work with. And I was going through social media and I was like, and he came across me on TikTok and he utilized social media a lot. And social media is a way that I've separated myself, I think, because of the youth aspect of it. But I respected the social media side, and I also love his fashion and his style, and he wears things that similar to what I would wear in terms of how they're cut and how they look. And I reached out to him and I go, Roshan, this is going to sound kind of weird. I'm a ring announcer. I'm specifically the youngest ring announcer in the world. I'm building my brand, blah, 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 blah. Here's why I want to wear your suits. Here's where I think I can help you. I think I can basically become almost a mobile billboard for what you create because it's just me on camera wearing your suits, and I get to specifically wear stuff of yours that is pretty flashy, pretty flamboyant, tuxedos, that type of stuff.
Right.
And he saw it, and he saw the value in the partnership, and he's become an ally of mine in terms of building my brand. And he and I have had very real conversations of, where I wanted to kind of go a more timid route. And he says, no, like if you want to be this entertainer, if you want to be Big Mo, if you want to build your brand, like we got to do it. And the visual component is a part of it. And he's clothed actors for red carpets. He's clothed royalty for royalty things. Like he's done that. And so he's been a huge ally of mine. So no, what I wear is a big part of it. Shout out to Sam's Tailor.
Big shout out.
In Hong Kong. Shout out Roshan. Make sure you check him out at Sam's Tailor. Get a suit made. Copy one of my looks. I don't give a damn.
There we go.
But shout out.
Yeah, big shout out. Being fully transparent, what would you say is the biggest difference of Big Mo announcing for Clarissa Shields and Big Mo at his very first fight ever?
Whew. Reps. I mean, honestly, I think reps, and also, I mean, just immense practice and focus and preparation and stuff like that. But I mean, the energy was always there, but it was knowing how to dial it in the right way. I think that I did find my voice as I kept going. In the very beginning, I was very throaty in the pause, very throaty in terms of how I was announcing. It was very, I was yelling almost and not announcing. So I started doing some research into how singers do it and kind of throw their voice. And so I started practicing more announcing from the diaphragm and actually projecting my voice rather than just shouting at someone. And that kind of helped dial the tone back, and it also allows me to keep my voice throughout the night. I don't lose my voice anymore. I haven't lost my voice since damn near my first few shows, because I know how to control it. I know how to kind of work with my vocal cords and things like that. I actually went to A couple times I've worked with an ear, nose, and throat specialist, and they actually mapped my vocal cords and stuck a camera down there. It was really cool. They never worked with a ring announcer before. They've worked with singers, and so they put a camera down my throat, and they're like, "All right, well, do what you do." They didn't really know what I do, and I was like, "All right," and ladies and gentlemen, that type of stuff, and like the whole office was like shook, but they were able to watch how my vocal cords behave as I announce.
Wow, that's fascinating.
It actually was really interesting. And they said that most vocal cords close like this. They close flush. Mine actually overlap. And so whenever you've heard me announce, I can kind of growl a little bit as I announce. It's because of the fact that my vocal cords are actually shaped in a way that allows me to, if they close like this, the air travels around the vocal cord rather than just right there. It's stuff beyond my pay grade. I don't specialize in that, but
shit.
yeah. So,
wow.
Interesting.
Super interesting. Why did you feel the need to try to do all these different maybe scientific approaches to this aspect? Are you always kind of looking for that edge?
I'm always looking for that edge, and I also I recognize the elephant in the room. I'm 27 years old. I've got a big. I'm a lot younger than everyone else doing it, and I'm also starting a lot younger. And because of that, also, I'm big on social media. I'm huge interacting with people. So I've always kind of looked at my career as like a, let's just see what we can create type of thing. Let's see where this can go. A lot of ring announcers, they're very set in their ways. They don't, they maybe don't acknowledge the feedback or listen to it. I tell people all the time, follow me on social media, talk to me. If you think there's something cool I could do, maybe let me know. What do you want to hear? What do you like when an announcer does? And I've almost become this almost this ongoing work in progress to where if someone DMs me and sends me an idea that's a great idea, I'm not going to go, trash.
Right.
No. Let's roll with it. If it's good and if it sounds good, I'd be stupid not to listen to it.
Of course.
So with how I've built this career, I've always been trying to find different ways to kind of set myself apart and just try different stuff. Worst case scenario is I try something that doesn't work. Okay.
Right.
See you next week.
Exactly.
I'll be in the ring again soon.
Exactly.
I just won't do it again. That's it.
Talk to me about a moment that, because I can see the drive. I can see it in your eyes. I can see how much you want to accomplish. And we were even talking about closing that gap. Mm-hmm. What are some of the moments that you can recall where, even though, yes, you're in that constant pursuit of closing the gap, that you sit back and we're like, holy fuck, I'm being flown out across the world to go do something I love. X amount of years ago, I had given up. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I had to give up football. Like, do you ever sit back and realize I'm really doing this damn thing?
I try. I try to do that because I'm very, very focused, very, dedicated on what I'm doing. I'm always on to the next thing. I don't like to dwell too much on stuff that may have happened previously. What is next type of thing. But yeah, with the closing the gap thing, and truthfully, in my opinion, the gap is closed. I do consider myself, one of the better ring announcers in the world. The platform speaks for itself. I wouldn't be what I'm doing if I wasn't, especially at how young I am. But no, I remember the Clarissa Shields Savannah Marshall fight really cemented it for me. At the time, I was 26. At that point, I had done 2 shows. So it was crazy what happened. So I did the test show for Boxer and Sky. It went well. They brought me back, and they were going to bring me back for 2 shows. One was in Liverpool for Liam Smith's return, and then it was going to be Clarissa Shields, Savannah Marshall. Liverpool show went great, loved it. Head back down to London. It was back-to-back weeks. We're going through the fight week stuff. Queen dies. Fight gets postponed. All good. Nope, not a problem. And so I just had to wait for that really big fight. I just had to wait a little bit more, and it was all good. And there were rumors about a certain announcer, a couple different announcers that wanted the fight, and they were thinking about flying them in and having them do the main event. And I remember I told one of the head guys from Boxer, I said, I got it. Like, I'm good. Like, if you have any nerves or reservations on if I can handle that. Believe me, I'm good. Like I'm big into visualization, affirmation. I've already announced on the stage like this, whether it was actually in reality or just in my head, I've already been here. And they let me roll with it, and it went great. And Clarissa Shields said she loved the introduction. Savannah loved the introduction. It's an amazing clip. I remember, and I'll post it one of these days. But I turned the corner to announce Clarissa Shields, and there's Dimitri Salita and Mark Taffet that are next to her. Big names in the sport. Dimitri Salita is obviously her manager and rep. Mark Taffet used to be with HBO Boxing, been around a long time.
Yeah.
And they're dialed in on me, man. And you can even see Dimitri go, "Come on, Big Mo, introduce." It's that type of thing. And like, so I'm good. Like I've been meant for this stage. I'm comfortable as it comes. I'm gonna be at Smith Eubank next week. It's already sold out in Manchester. Going to be a huge fight. It's nothing to me. I'm good. I love what I do. I know what I'm capable of doing in that ring and what I can deliver for a show. But I remember when I finished that introduction, I got outside and I wanted to take a video. And I wasn't nervous, but I was shaking. And you can see in the video that I took, like, because I'm panning because the place is sold out. So I'm panning the whole O2 and like, my hands are kind of like shaking, but it wasn't nerves. It was just like, and that was the first time where I sat back and I was like, that was fucking sick. And I look at Johnny Nelson, who I mentioned earlier, who was like the first kind of person to acknowledge me. And he looked at me and I'll never forget, he goes like this.
Oh,
and I was
man.
Like, so that moment is where I kind of sat back and I was
wow.
like, this is pretty amazing.
I'm genuinely happy for you, man. Oh wow, that brings me joy. It genuinely does.
And it keeps me focused too, because I want to have that feeling again. Of course, so man. Now it's on to the next goal and the next goal and start knocking down goals because I want to feel that every time.
Oh,
you know
man. Oh man. I want to ask this kind of a two-parter.
Yeah.
What would you say are some of the biggest differences in audiences in Europe and here? And then what would you say are some of the biggest differences between boxing and bare knuckle audiences?
Yeah, so definitely, and it's kind of, they're tied together, those questions. So nicely done how you asked it. Every sport kind of has subtle nuances with their audiences. Obviously, I announced for Boxer and Sky in the UK, but then I also announced for BYB here in America. You interviewed Dada 5000 on here, obviously a good friend of mine.
Big shout out, Dada.
Shout out to Dada, shout out to BYB.
Yes.
And I'm enjoying building their brand a lot. I think they have an amazing, amazing show. I mean, if you guys haven't gone to a BYB show, if you like violence, we got it in spades.
They got it by the buckets.
If you don't like violence, you probably don't want to come. I'm gonna be honest. Like, you probably don't want to come. So I announced for both of them, and they have subtle nuances with their audiences. Obviously, the bare knuckle is way newer and it's still developing. Like people don't understand. MMA is still in its baby stages.
Yeah,
MMA has only been around for 25, 30 years in terms of mass production.
Right.
Boxing's been around for 100. Right. So bare knuckle's only been around for 10. Whatever the hell it's been. So that's a big piece of it is, with boxing, you get a lot of history. And I think that's why the UK fans I love announcing for UK fans. Man.
Yeah.
They are crazy.
Are they passionate?
Yes. Yes. And it's amazing how stuff works because I knew that a more energetic style of announcer would work in boxing. How I've always kind of looked at it, because people have asked me, who I look up to or other announcers that I like the Buffers. I like Bruce and Michael. They're the gold standard in my opinion. I think they're fucking phenomenal at what they do. And I kind of wanted to be a middle ground between them.
Their story is about how they're brothers is insane.
It's an amazing story. Yeah. And, I look up to them a lot, but I kind of wanted to be in the middle of the two. I really liked Michael's classiness and bravado about him, but then I also loved Bruce's energy and how he got the crowd involved. So I kind of wanted to find my space in the middle. And I knew that a more energetic announcer would work in boxing because no one's ever tried it. No one's ever tried to move around the ring and turn to the fighters and get the crowd involved and that type of stuff. It's just never been tried. So I knew it could work. But it would take the audience it would take the right audience to get behind it. I think that it worked out so well with Boxer and Sky because the British fans are so into it. I mean, I'll never forget. We're announcing the show and the arena looked kind of empty. We were on a commercial break, and I turned to one of the guys on Boxer. I go, "Where is everyone?" They go, "Oh, no, they're here. They're at the bar." Right? Don't get me wrong. They're here. They're just not in their seats at the moment. And then they just pour in once we go back. And so they're so passionate about it. They love it there. It's just a bigger sport. It's the sport is the same.
Right.
American boxing and British boxing it's the same.
Right.
But it's just bigger over there. It's kind of that simple. So I love announcing for the British fans. They are one of a kind, and I wouldn't trade them for the world, to be honest. I'm an American, proud American, love America, but damn, those British fans are amazing.
Damn!
Amazing.
Oh man,
you gotta come.
Oh, I would love to. I would love to. I would absolutely love to. I do have a question about American boxing in a second, but before we do, ladies and gentlemen, every single week, you know what I'm saying, we have three segments, and the second one is actually the movie review of the week. And in this segment, we ask our illustrious guest for a suggestion on a movie, a TV show, any sort of media. It could be a movie, it could be a fight that you maybe once you saw and you're like, I need to put this on replay, whatever the case may be. Whatever, you know, if you had an audience of 2,000 people who had maybe 2 hours to kill, what would you suggest for them to consume?
Well, again, I love entertainment, all forms of entertainment. I love movies, love TV shows, movie buff, love all that. So I love that you asked that question. Right now, I'm actually, oddly enough, I'm rewatching, I know we're going to stick on the fighting, but I'm actually rewatching Kingdom, which is a show about fighters. It didn't pop a lot when it came out, and I don't know why. The show is amazing. It stars Frank Grillo, Nick Jonas, Jonathan Tucker, a couple other people, and it's about fighters, but it's about fighters more on kind of the regional scene.
Okay.
I think it's set back a little bit. I want to say it was made about 10 years ago.
Okay.
And it kind of had a reignition because Netflix picked it up 3-4 years ago. So it had a huge boost in viewership, but now it's on Peacock. A lot of people don't know about it. And the reason why I love that show is they nail the regional fight scene. It's brutal. Like for those of you that are fight fans, like maybe you know this, maybe you don't. It doesn't just start at the UFC. Like the UFC is like a dream for people. And the road to get there is brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, getting paid sometimes nothing to really put your life on the line,
and covering your own medical bills,
all bills, that, like, you know, you're working on the side, you know, that type of stuff, and they nail that really, really well, and that's why I love that show. And it's got great character development, some really dramatic scenes, really, really well done show. I wish it was more popular. I don't know why it's not. It's pretty gritty, but highly recommend. So I'm rewatching that right now. Movie side, I'm trying to think if I saw any good movies recently. Rewatched The Prestige, Christopher Nolan, about the two magicians, Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman.
Great movie.
Saw Glass Onion recently, the Knives Out sequel.
How was it?
I liked it. I like mystery type stories. I read a couple Agatha Christie books when I was a kid, and it's kind of that style of mystery novel, and I love Daniel Craig. So that was good. Yeah. Those are probably my recommendations for the week.
Great recommendations. Thank you for those suggestions. Make sure to check them out. I did have a question when you had mentioned American and UK boxing. What are your 2 cents on all these, you know, your KSIs, your Logan Pauls, your YouTube boxing? Talk to me about that a little bit.
Good question. I think it's really valuable in moderation. That's my biggest thing.
Like ice cream.
Yeah. So I think, and I've talked about this, I actually talked about this on a boxing podcast once called The Boxing Voice in Vegas. Shout out to Boxing Voice.
Big shout out.
But I was talking about Logan and Jake. And in my opinion, what they are doing is valuable because boxing for a long time has been very old school. and they haven't always changed what they do in terms of presentation or how the broadcast is structured or the promotion. It's kind of always been the same. Don't get me wrong, it's developed, but for the general, it's been the same. With that, you sometimes will struggle to pull in new audiences of people. The reason why the UFC worked, in my opinion, the reason why American boxing suffered when the UFC came out is the UFC was new, had a different type of product, and it pulled a lot of viewership away, right?
Yeah.
Hence why, UK boxing is still so massive. The UFC really hasn't figured it out over there.
Yeah, they haven't.
That's why, in my opinion, boxing is a lot bigger over there. But with Logan and Jake, I liked it because they were working on bringing in a new audience of people. They have a massive following. KSI has a massive following. These YouTube stars have a massive following, and they are getting their following to watch boxing, right? Even if a small portion of those people like boxing, it's a lot of new viewers on the sport. And that's how you grow a sport, is by bringing in new viewers of people. The reason why I love what I'm doing is, and a big goal of mine is, I want to grow the sport. I want to grow combat sports collectively. I think it's the best sport in the world, and I say them together. And for the life of me, I could never understand why combat sports isn't more popular in the 18 to 30 age demo. It's getting there. UFC really is, but boxing never really has been. Mm-hmm. Blows my mind. What is it missing? Yeah. It has violence. It has trash talk. It has alcohol. It has flash and fireworks and huge ring entrances. And so I think that's why I like the YouTube, is because the YouTube boxing is bringing in a new viewership of people. My only hesitation is, if you do it too much, it's going to lose its luster. Mm-hmm. So I have no issue with Misfits on DAZN and KSI, and I love it. And props to them. They just got a new broadcasting deal with DAZN. Congratulations. But in my opinion, it can't be at most it's got to be once a month. Right. Because it's going to lose that. In my opinion, if you do it too frequently, it's going to become too much of a circus. Yeah. And the circus is really valuable, but it's valuable in moderation. So I love it, the YouTube stuff. I just hope that they don't overdo it, if that makes sense. Right.
Yeah, because if not, you got MTV Celebrity Boxing, or whatever the case. That's what it is at the end of the day. I would be remiss if I don't mention, or at least ask, one slightly controversial question. So get ready for this, heater. Okay. There is an elephant in the room when we mention boxing, and that's fight fixing. Mm-hmm. Talk to me a little bit about that. I'm sure that you haven't, experienced anything firsthand, but as a spectator and, more importantly, a fan of the sport, talk to me about that a little bit.
So I actually was thinking about this the other day, so it's interesting you brought this up, because, and it's not just boxing. You see it in every form of combat sports.
True.
And where I have been lucky in my career is how I've grown is I've kind of grown my career like a fighter. I started off in the small local scene, built, got a big show, built. Now I'm on a big stage, right? Mm-hmm. So I've seen judging on the world stage for an undisputed championship, 4 belts on the line. And I've seen a local amateur fight between two 18-year-old kids that are 0-0, and who knows if they'll ever continue fighting. Maybe they lost a bet. I've seen the whole gambit. Here's my opinion, because everyone always has a complaint about judges. Someone always has a complaint about fight fixing. Someone always has a complaint about corruption. Look, I haven't seen it firsthand. I'm also not involved in it. So my experience is limited. But here's what I will tell you. To fix a fight is incredibly difficult. You guys have to understand, the levels of restrictions and monitoring and oversight from government and from promotions and from broadcasters, for someone to fix a fight, there would have to be tons of people in on it, to where I don't even understand how it would work. So
you're saying it's not just the two fighters?
I don't think it can be, right, in my opinion, because you have commissions that oversee XYZ. You have promotions that are with the fighters at every moment. You have a commissioner watching someone's hands get wrapped. Like the level, and it's a good thing because this is such a violent sport. It's a good thing to have that level of concern and carefulness with it.
Yep.
To where when people complain about, like, whenever there's a score that's off, people throw their arms, he got paid off. I'm like, well, do you think perhaps that judge just misscored something? Listen, I played sports my whole life. I watched referees miss calls live. I've seen that. People go, okay, well, he was influenced by the crowd. Probably. Yeah,
right.
That's not. And I would love to see maybe additional judges in the back. I know that that's been brought up before of, maybe having judges at ringside, but almost having the equivalent of like an instant replay.
Right.
I'm all for ideas like that. But in regards to the fight fixing and corruption, again, my experience is limited because I am separate. That's the interesting thing about my job is I'm very in it, but I'm also not, in the sense of like when I travel and I do these shows, I'm pretty independent. I kind of stick to myself. I do hang out with the teams and stuff like that, but I'm not, I see the commission for 3 hours on the night of the fight, right? I do the weigh-ins with them. I sit next to them in ringside, and then I don't see him again. So I'm not really involved with the matchmaking, the oversight, the judging. I'm just not. So, but in my opinion, one, the frequency of complaints about fight fixing, I'm like, okay, well, not every fight is fixed. Like, good Lord. Like,
right.
If you want to complain once a year, all right, maybe we'll entertain it. But even then, like, to accomplish that and to just have this scam take place,
right.
I mean, there's a lot of moving parts where you would have to have this insanely thought out plot on how this was all. I remember there was the one about, Jake Paul and, he was fighting Tyron Woodley. And he turns his hand like that. And that was the cue for Tyron. I'm like, do you understand what you're saying right now? Like
it's so crazy. No, I thought that was insane. I thought that was insane. I thought that was insane. Absolutely insane. Talk to me a little bit about all the traveling that you need to do. I mean, you must have airline miles up the wazoo,
Lots of travel.
I was about to say, do you at least get a decent amount of heads up? How do you feel about being quote unquote a traveling man? Would you like to have a little bit more of a stationary, or do you like having to travel so often?
We've talked about, and obviously it's been mentioned, but the youth factor it's a considerable thing, and I think that helps me in that realm. Look, I'm a single guy. I don't have a wife. Don't even have a dog. Don't even have a fish. Right. If I have to hop on a plane to go announce a fight, I can do that. And, for example, like I've had promotions, Boxer once they announced the Eubank Smith fight and they were like, hey, can we extend your stay a day so you can, run the press conference? Of course. I'm here to work. Like, I enjoy working. I enjoy chasing what I'm after. I enjoy bettering myself. So the amount of travel, while it is difficult, I don't mind it. I don't have a body clock anymore. I don't sleep a ton. I definitely get sleep more. But at the same time, I'm very lucky. I don't like to use the word luck. I'm very fortunate to do what I get to do. I get to travel the world. I get to meet amazing people. I get to meet people from every background on the planet. I get to be on television. I get to entertain people. I love entertaining. I love it more than anything else. I love watching someone have a reaction to what I do.
Right.
In my situation, the reaction is cheering. The reaction is yelling and screaming. If I was a stand-up comedian, the reaction would be laughing. If I was a Broadway performer, perhaps maybe the reaction is a tear being shed. Mine is cheering. It's positive. And so I get to do that. I get to meet these people. I get to take pictures. I get the DMs I get from people of, you made my night. This was my night. I love doing this. Like, I think we've forgotten the purpose of entertainment. Like, at its core, sports is entertainment.
Yeah.
People are watching it. And so much of entertainment has become so divisive or political. Like, I miss entertainment where it was just entertainment, where I could just flick on something and whatever I had in my life that was going on, I could just detach. I could just, I'm entertained right now. I'm laughing, I'm cheering, I'm crying, whatever it is. I'm not focused on all that other crap. So I get to do that. And I'm Hell yeah, put me on a plane to do that. That feeling, that euphoria that I get after the show, it's unbeatable.
Oh, man. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, every single week, you know what I'm saying? We have three segments. And the last one is actually the quest for the truth.
Oh.
And in this segment, I ask our guest a random question from this here book. I don't know what the question is going to be.
I like this.
But here we go.
Amazing.
All right. God. If you could receive all the products from a single company for free, but could not resell them, which company would you choose?
Sam's Taylor in Hong Kong. Give me all the suits. Damn, that's a good question. I'm a huge fashion guy. I really am. I love clothes. I love, kind of presenting myself. And I guess, give me all the Rolls Royces. I don't got to sell them.
There we go.
Cars, I guess.
There we go.
I'm bougie.
Shit, hell yeah. Oh my God. I got to ask, what hair products do you use? Because, man, I know. I'm not going to be purchasing any, but, man, they look good. They look good.
I don't use a specific sponsor, but if any hair care sponsors would like to talk to me, my DMs are open. No, I get comments on the hair a lot. It's interesting. Like, I always get asked about it and what products that I use. I just pick a hairstyle that I like. I take care of it. I believe, in my opinion, with hair care products, like, there is a quality difference. If you're using the 3-in-1 body wash, shampoo, and conditioner on your hair, look, if you don't want to spend the money, it's all good. Yeah. But if you put forth a little bit of an effort and you purchase nicer products, and you have, I'm about to blow your mind. You have a body wash, you have a shampoo and a conditioner, and they're all separate products.
What?
Whoa!
What? You heard it here first.
Whoa! I highly recommend it. There's definitely a benefit to it, taking care of your hair, going to a quality hairstylist. Again, obviously there's a cost associated with it, but no, in terms of specific products, I don't really use any specifically. There is one, I'm trying to remember the name of the brand now. Of course, I'm drawing a blank.
You'll text it to me after. I'll put it on the screen. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. We'll talk.
What would you say, I guess, when preparing for a fight or for a big event, what is your kind of your checklist that you go through?
Good question. So, day of the fight, I guess we'll just kind of start there. Day of the fight, at this point, my fight cards are all set, because at this point I've done the weigh-ins, which are kind of like a mock trial run. Basically, the fight cards almost work as I used the word script earlier, as they're not a script, but they are a script in terms of the order of events for a show. So I always order my fight cards, and I always know what fight is next. And I have cues on that and stuff. If we have a video package and things like that, certain sponsors. So at that point, that's all set. As long as I got them in my bag, we're check. Like to sleep in a little bit, like to rest. Typically been a pretty hectic week. Now it's a Saturday, I get to relax a little bit. Iron my clothes. While I iron my clothes or steam my clothes, I do vocal warm-ups. So I have my headphones in while I'm ironing and that type of stuff. So I'm tone deaf. I can't sing, but I still do the vocal warm-ups.
You do a humidifier or no?
No, actually, I might at some point. I just don't do it at the current moment. If it ain't broke, don't fix it type of thing.
Right.
I definitely take care of my voice. I don't smoke. I don't do anything like that. That's all really detrimental for your voice. So that prep is all good. Get the clothes on. Typically, I actually like to dress beforehand. I don't like to dress at the arena. I like to just dress and take my time. It's fun. Like I treat it like a pregame.
Right.
And you see the sports side of me tie in. I put my headphones in. I listen to warm up music, man. Like I treat it all the same way. Regardless of. I could be writing a book, and for all I know, I'd probably treat it the same way. And so I get everything set. I get everything prepped. I like to get to the arena early. Go through any sound checks that I have. Make sure that my IFB is working. IFB is basically an inner ear piece, so I can hear the director for cues in the truck. Meet everybody, meet the staff. I always like to meet the camera people, the sound crew, because if I ever need something, I want to be able to call them by their name. double check with production, go through production meeting, just a final run through. Here's the order, blah, 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 blah. If I hash out any questions that I may have. Let's see, do makeup, obviously. Then I go ringside. I like to work with the social team. I want to be involved in the social, and they kind of utilize me to do maybe a show open or something like that, or interact with people. Then I meet the commission, talk to the judges, confirm who the referees are. And then at that point, we're pretty damn close to showtime. And then we start the undercard, and we're off and away.
Would you say, truly, honestly, would you say that you announcing someone in the undercard, in the undercard, is the same for you as announcing someone in the main card?
I would say so. I definitely ramp up the energy, but in terms of preparation, it's the exact same. Like, I keep a lot of my fight cards because it's a cool, historical piece for me. Like, the fight cards for the main event are structured the same way as the fight cards for the undercard. There's just some more shit on the main event. More sponsor plugs, more, name of the judges and the commission, stuff like that. But it's the same. It's the same general layout. So the preparation is the same. And in fact, the undercard, is important because the undercard almost acts as a preparation for the main event in the sense of, if I'm getting used to the acoustics of an arena, or if I want to, change my voice tone a little bit, I can do that without having to do it, in front of the big crowd or, the big viewership.
Wow. Before we start wrapping up this powerhouse, this magnificent episode, Big Mo, I'd be remiss if I don't ask you, have you ever had any sort of issues with fighters? And I'm not saying maybe issues with fighters yourself, but maybe you were at a weigh-in or whatever the case, and the two fighters were going at it or trying to go at it, and you're in the middle, something along those lines. Have you ever had anything like that happen?
Yes. What I will say first is, with me, never. And that's actually a really, you asked some damn good questions, by the way.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I always get along so well with the fighters, and it's just it's a respect thing. Listen, I know I've never been a fighter, but I have been a high caliber athlete. I know the stress that goes involved with it. I understand how their preparation is, that they're antsy and they're wired, and they just, and so I keep my distance. I'm respectful. A lot of times I'll talk to the coaches before I talk to the actual fighter, shake every fighter's hand, say thank you, good luck, confirm things with them, get out of their way. So I've never, in fact, I'll go the opposite direction. I have a great relationship with the fighters that I work with. I love becoming friends with them, and I think that my age helps.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them are my age, and I can just talk to them like a human. Like, yes, I'm a ring announcer. Yes, you're a fighter, but you want to go get a drink after the show? Like, I'll hang out with you guys. Like, let's kick it. And it's that type of mutual respect too. And obviously they like the job that I do, and it helps them. And but in terms of getting in the middle of stuff, that always happens. And oddly enough, I'm kind of always around it when it happens. I mean, the most famous one was when I did the Eddie Hall Hafthor Bjornsson.
Oh yeah.
That went super viral, and I was in the middle of that press conference, and they got into it, and I put my hands on Thor, and they were shoving and cans being thrown and stuff like that. So that's probably the most notable altercation I've been in, but that's happened before. I mean, luckily I'm a big guy, and I can hold my ground at least a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not a fighter, I'm not giving any fighters ideas. I'm not going to square up with you guys, but I'll get in the way, that type of thing. So a couple altercations here and there.
And would you say that for the most part is to try to sell the fight, or would you say that it's genuine?
It's both. I've seen both.
Yeah.
And a lot of times too, people think that it's to sell the fight when it's actually, and the Hafthor Eddie one is a perfect example. Like, I remember when that happened, and a lot of people were like, oh, they're just it's this celebrity fight, they're just selling it. No.
There was very real animosity.
It was very real. And I was there early, and I was hearing the conversations they were having off camera. No one's even there except for me and them, just getting ready and writing out questions. And like, so a lot of times when you think there's no animosity, no, there is.
Jeez.
So I've seen both, and I totally understand it for selling a fight. I support it in a lot of respects. Obviously, if it's real, that makes it even easier.
Right.
So I've seen both.
Wow. Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, what an episode we have had today. Can we please give it up for Big Mo?
Thank Thank you, man.
Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate you coming on. I truly do. I am so grateful that we finally got the chance to do this. We definitely have to do it again.
Yep.
You know, we'll get a little update after a couple shows that you do. Have you come back on and we'll talk about that. Talk to me about social media. Where can people follow you, follow your journey, follow your next event? Talk to me all about that.
Yeah. So follow me on all social media platforms. I'm very engaged in social media at official.bigmo on Instagram and TikTok, bigmo_official on Twitter, bigmo on Facebook. DM me. I'm always talking to people, always love interacting with people. So shoot me a message, give me a follow. Next fight, I'll be doing actually my first ever international pay-per-view.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah. So next week is Liam Smith versus Chris Eubank Jr. from the AO Arena in Manchester. I believe it's almost sold out, 20K.
Oh.
Big pay-per-view on Sky. DAZN has the American rights, I think.
Okay.
So it's going to be worldwide syndication. Should be a huge fight. But I actually think I owe you something before we leave.
Oh, please.
I'm pretty sure, because you gave me a hell of an introduction. So I owe you a hell of an introduction. Now, where in Argentina are you from?
I'd be honored. I'm from Rosario, Argentina.
Rosario.
Okay. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is your main event of the evening. Live from the Midnight in Miami studios here in Miami, Florida, USA. Introducing first, hosting out of the red corner. He hails from Rosario, Argentina, introducing the host with the most, the one, the only, Juan Gamero.
Wow, my brother, I am so grateful. Thank you so much. That means the world, man. That brought me so much joy, man. I'm over here smiling like a dumbass. Oh, man, thank you so much. That was amazing.
Thank you, Juan. Thank you, the Midnight in Miami viewers, for having me. Amazing show.
Thank you. Please hit him with a follow. Let him know that we sent you. And stay tuned to every Thursday at midnight for a new guest. Subscribe, because Big Mo will be back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, every Thursday at midnight, you know what it is. Holla.
Peace.
You can say how you feel on midnight in Miami, where you can push it to